Hello everyone, Dev Victoria is here. Welcome back to another episode of creating my super simple first person controller. In this episode, I'm going to focus on how do we handle the moving input. So this project is available in the GitHub repository. I put the link into the description below the video. And there is a global input folder in the first person controller folder. And this is where I had put the MyUnity.dos experiments input asset. So if I click on edit asset, there is this move that has been defined here. The left stick, the WASD key and the up, down, left, right arrows for moving, and for looking the delta pointer and the right stick. But for the looking, I am not going to talk about it in this video, but the next one. So let's go back to the scene. So we've got our input actions. On one hand, let's quickly go to the other end, the dots end. We've got this float to input data, I component data, which is going to store the input, the data that comes from the input system. We've got this move action data and look action data. And from this input system data, somehow, some way, magically, we have to convert that data into this I component data. I put this into the dots player, and this is the only place where there will be a float to input data component here. So this will be a singleton component. And I created an input manager which will be a non-dots game object. It has an input processor which is going to convert the input data to the dots world. I'm going to show the code for this later. And also I put it a player input component here with the myUnity.experiment input action set. And I attached the events, the input manager. So obviously this is game object. This is the game object. The input processor move player character is going to happen when the input system is going to be updated. But when it's going to be updated, I set it up the input system package update mode. I set it up to process the events manually in order to make sure that this whole update is happening at the right time, which is the update, the mono behaviors update method, just to make sure that it runs before the simulation system group. So I think that's it for the editor setup. Now let's take a look at this input processor script. This is very straightforward. We are going to get the entity manager because the entity manager is the thing, or how should I call it? The struct. Okay, see, the entity manager is a struct, this magic struct that can communicate between the non-dots world and the dots world. And also we got this float to input data query, which is queries this float to input data component. In the update, we are going to call the input system.update method since we are set it up to be a manual update, so we have to call this somewhere. And now the move player character is going to I put this debug log here just so that we can see when it is happening. And we are going to have two fields. One is for the movement input and one is for the look input. And we are going to update the movement input with the context read value vector 2 because the movement data is a vector 2 data. And we are going to set the singleton. So this float to input data query has a set singleton method, and we are going to create a new float to input data with the move action move input and the look action data is the look input, but the looking is going to be the next episode. So that was it for the input processor. Now let's take a look at the move player system. And this is going to move the character around. We need the build physics world system because what we are going to adjust is the physics velocity component of this object. And for that we need the build physics world system. And also on the on update, first we get the singleton value so we can check or we can get the data from the input system, because by the time this move player system is in the simulation system group, so by the time this code is running, then then the data from the input system is ready, and we need the physics world and we need the delta time. And also I added this debug log just so that we would know when this happens. And this is a simple for each cycle. It has a bunch of parameters. And so we got this requested movement direction. We had this right hand side movement and left hand side movement and the forward, because basically this move input data, the first coordinate will be the left and right data. I think if it's -1, then it is going to move to the left, and if it's +1, it is going to move to the right. And the forward movement, if it's +1, it's ahead, and if it's -1, this is going back, if I recall correctly. And if this is the float has this epsilon value, I'm just testing here that it is not 0, the movement. If it's not 0, then we've got an input direction, and from that we can calculate this requested movement direction. And then we are going to multiply this with the character controller data's movement speed, because our character controller data contains only just very simple things: the movement speed, the rotation speed, the skin width, and the character mass. So with that we can calculate the linear velocity, and I temporarily put the collision and the rotation handling into regions, because this is going to be a subject of later videos. And we are finally calculating the physics velocity, because the physics velocity got this ref modifier, so we are going to modify this. we are going to set the linear velocity based on this calculated linear velocity, and the angular velocity will be the horizontal angular velocity. As I mentioned before, this will be the subject of the next video. So let's go back to Unity. So this character controller data is attached to the player, so this is where it can be adjusted. And let's switch to the console and let's run the game or the scene. And let's go forward, let's go backward, let's go left, let's go right. And as you can see, let me just scroll back when I find some move player character logs. So I think this is when I was moving right, I believe. This is just another 0. This is when I was moving left. And there should be some up and down movement as well. I think that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And in the next one, I'm going to talk about the camera handling, the rotation of the camera. And but I hope you can learn something from this video or get some inspiration at least. So, and see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.